helpful in it. But the big question here is that is it the process that put the whole system in place the way I was trained at USF, or is the process, because you keep going back to this, and I believe what you're saying is correct, and the better way to do it in general, I'm not saying all the time, is to start somewhere small and build it out from there, because I believe that you create a want for that, for more of this stuff.
Everything we've learned has been to start small and build out. The thing that you have to be careful of, if you take an individual school, you have to do enough that you get a critical mass of practices to get an effect. So if you just start rewarding positive behavior, but you haven't actually taught, and you don't have any consequences for inappropriate behavior, you're not going to get the effect. So part of what we've got is this measure of, are you implementing PBIS? But we've also said, look, at tier 1, unless you get to 70%, don't expect change in kid behavior. Once you get to 70%, our data indicate you'll start seeing change in the overall behavior of kids in the school. Now, you raised a couple of issues. One was the office discipline referrals as a unit, a metric of progress. And a guy named Larry Irvin just did a beautiful set of studies looking at this whole notion of office discipline referrals. An office discipline referral is not just a measure of kid behavior, it's also a measure of adult behavior. And you can find schools where the teachers are so into writing office discipline referrals that we had one school where the teacher started her day by writing 5 office discipline referrals in advance, because she knew that this was going to happen and she had them all written out, ready to go. Right. And we have others. Right. So
it's a self-fulfilling prophecy right there.
Exactly. And other teachers are so prideful in their ability to manage things that they don't ever want to fill out a referral. They think they can make it work. So in part, the reason we use office discipline referrals is they are mandated by both the federal government and every state Department of Education. So we use office discipline referrals because they are the unit that already exists. Okay. Now, the second part is we teach schools to become a little more systematic in the way they use office referrals. We give them operational definitions. We develop a rule for what's called minor infractions and major infractions, right? And so if you're using that system, you get a little bit more consistency. We also found very early on that schools in some communities had low ODRs, schools in others had high, and it was really much more related to the culture of that context. So rather than comparing across schools, we compared within schools. Regardless of what your measure is, how do we reduce it by 40%, right? And we also learned that student suspensions, and especially student expulsions, were harder metrics. When we first started doing the research, we would go into schools and have our graduate students watch student behavior. So we measured student behavior in the classroom, in the hallway, in the cafeteria, on the playground, and we mapped it against official office discipline referrals. So we use direct observation in addition to some of the other measures when we were first building some of the strategies, especially when we got into addressing bullying behaviors and things of that nature. So we have no misconception about office discipline referrals being a rocket science metric, but we do believe that if the teachers see the data being used, the data become more reliable, more useful. So one of our mantras is never ask people to collect data that they don't see used for decision making within a month.
Yeah, I think that's a great mantra. And unfortunately, and again, it's the schools. I'm looking at the schools where it wasn't effective, and it wasn't effective because people were using the systems right.